On December 17th, there is a movie that is highly anticipated that's going to be released in theaters that features the crossover of characters who have never met before and the return of iconic villains from the franchise's history. Of course, the movie that I'm talking about is the brand new Kamen Rider Beyond Generations film that will be released in Japanese cinemas on December 17th, so next week. Was there another movie you guys thought I was going to be talking about? Anyway, today we're going to be talking about that movie that's coming out here, our Revice and Saber crossover film. Revice, the current Kamen Rider series, has been a lot of fun. Finally got my first couple of merchandise from the show. This is the commentary. Buy stamp there. So this has been a lot of fun. I can't wait to get my Revice driver. I've already pre-ordered the Demons driver and such like that. But we have this film to talk about. And we've had a couple of toys released for it, or that are going to be released for it. We have some pretty cool casting information and some theories to kind of speculate about that people have been floating around on the internet. So let's go ahead and talk about this brand new film. Ever since like 2010, we've gotten a movie war film for the Kamen Rider franchise that always saw a crossover between the current Rider show and the previous Rider series. These lasted for basically an entire decade until, well, last year, because due to everything going on in the world, we did not get a traditional crossover film for Saber and Zero One, unfortunately. We still got a Saber and a Zero One film, but they didn't ever cross over. Technically, we did finally get to see them meet in this most recent summer's Superhero Senki film, when we did finally get a brief scene of the two of them actually together with their original actors, which was always great to see. But, I was hoping that they were actually going to return to the typical movie war crossover films, and they most certainly are. But with this year being the 50th anniversary of Kamen Rider, they've got to do a little bit of a spin on it. It can't just be about Revice, it can't just be about Saber, and it definitely is not. So we're going to go ahead and start with this brand new rider, whose name is Kamen Rider Century, which as far as I can tell is a possible reference to a joke made by producer Shirakura back in like 2009 or something like that, during the time of Decade airing. He made a joke about like the 100th anniversary of Heisei Rider being named Kamen Rider Century or something like that, and it looks like they're actually going to go with that with this future rider. This rider comes from the year 2071 and would be the one celebrating Kamen Rider's 100th anniversary, if, the franchise can make it another 50 years. Let's see. In 2071, I will be 70 years old, so I could realistically see the Kamen Rider Century series airing in 2070. Hopefully they actually make that a thing, right? Just like 2022's Shinobi series, we're definitely going to be getting that. I mean, making up years in the future that we might actually hit someday they're totally going to actually do that in those years, right? And they're not going to just make up whatever they would have done anyway, right? But clearly, Kamen Rider Century takes some design inspirations from the original Kamen Rider Ichigo, and somehow lives in a utopian world where we get rid of Kamen Rider gimmicks because his belt is just a very simple belt called the Cyclotron Driver. And of course, it's getting a release as a premium Bandai item. So this is kind of the first toy that we're getting for Beyond Generations, or that's explicitly made for Beyond Generations. Of course, it's a premium item. There was no way it wasn't going to be. And it's interesting. It has like this clear white kind of plastic, kind of trying to make this weird futuristic look. I kind of dig the look of it. It's basically looks like some kind of like... It almost gets to the point where it looks a little too cheap for the design that they're going for, and it's not cheap, so it's definitely not cheap. It's like 6,600 yen or something, like before taxes and shipping and everything like that. So Toku Collectibles has it up for pre-order right now for $113, which I definitely think it's a little much. I get it, I see why it's that price. But all it really does is it has some voice phrases from these two characters that are going to be in the film, who are most certainly the identity of Kamen Rider Century. They just haven't, I don't think said that yet, but they definitely are going to be them. It's also going to have a bunch of different colored LEDs for the Rider Kick Attack, the Rider Punch Attack, and of course, the transformation. It's going to spin in the circle like the Typhoon does from the original Kamen Rider series and everything. So, I don't know, it's kind of neat. I feel like maybe over time, maybe the plastic would start yellowing on that or something. Hopefully not. But that could be something that I would be afraid about if I were to pick this up. I'm not getting this. I don't really have any desire to get it, and I'd rather spend the over $100 on the Libra driver for Kamen Rider Genie or something like that. I'd rather much rather get that, and I'm not even getting that. I'm getting the Demons driver, but I'm not getting her driver. I can't afford all these premium Bandai drivers one after another, and it's definitely a trend that we've been going on here recently. Zero One had a bunch of drivers that were premium. Saber did the same, so premium drivers all over the place. And speaking of premium items, we are finally going to get our first Reiwa Rider Vice stamp, which this one's going to be the Kajiki, or the Swordfish stamp, which will be our stamp for Kamen Rider Saber. So, I like this idea. It's definitely a fun one, a swordfish representing Saber. I think it's the one that's made the most sense so far. I mean, where is this here? Kamakiri, being a mantis for Gaim. Okay, there's really no reason why Gaim is associated with a mantis, or like Geo with a brachia or anything, but it never really matched up very well anyway. But this one I think definitely works. So we don't know if it's going to appear in the film itself. It might, since Saber will actually be there, because we haven't seen any Reiwa stamps on screen yet. Obviously, they're going to exist at some point, I assume, but we just haven't seen them yet there. So possibly we'll see that there. It's also possible that there's another stamp coming. I believe there's a listing up there on Toku Collectibles for a Winter Movie Ride stamp, which could be like the 01 Vice stamp possibly, if we're going to get Saber here. Maybe they'll release one for 01 like right afterward or something. But I don't think we know what this one is yet. So hopefully we'll see it soon. I'm sure we will, because it's supposed to come out during this month. But it's yet to be seen exactly which one that will be. So there's that. So, of course, being an anniversary film, and of course, it's Kamen Rider Century already having some kind of connections or possible, homages to Ichigo, Shocker's involved in this film. Because, of course, they are. So, Shocker's going to be back in this film, and this time it looks like they're probably behind Kamen Rider Century, because Century seems to be kind of the main villain of this film, kind of like a Kamen Rider Sango situation from Superhero Tyson GP or something like that. So, the poster, of course, also showed Kamen Rider Ichigo being a part of this film, which makes sense because of Shocker's here, and also with it being the 50th anniversary. But they're doing something actually pretty sweet. So, just this past summer, also in Superhero Senki, we actually got the return of Kamen Rider Ichigo himself, Hiroshi Fujioka. He came back to reprise his role as Takashi Hongo, and it was sweet. I've already seen the clips from Superhero Senki, which please let me know down in the comments below if you guys would like to see a full video review of that movie whenever it gets subbed, kind of like I did with Tengo Kaiju last week. I'd be totally down to do that because I'm waiting for it to be subbed so I can watch the full thing. But he was awesome in this movie. It was just really great to see him again. It had been 5 years or so since we last seen him in the role of Takashi Hongo. So this time around, even though they just got him back, he's not going to be in this movie directly. But Takashi Hongo is going to appear outside of suit. And how is this going to happen? Well, they're actually going to have a younger Takashi Hongo appear in this film, played by Hiroshi's son. So that's right, Maito Fujioka will be playing a younger version of his father in this film, which is just really, really cool. So obviously with Kamen Rider Century and everything, they've been teasing this whole like 1971, 2071 kind of connection thing here. There's like this kid and this elderly guy who is obviously related in some way to Century and the time travel and stuff. There's time travel, so like the Momotaros is probably going to show up in this or something. We just don't know that yet. But, it wouldn't surprise me if they make a cameo or something like that. But yeah, that's how this is going to work. So we're going to actually see Takashi Hongo, I assume from 1971. But it will be his son playing, the actual role this time. Which I'm very interested if it's just going to be for this movie or if maybe they'll ever go back to that being the case. Because, Hiroshi looks absolutely awesome for the age that he is, and the fact that he's, coming back to Kamen Rider as recently as now is super, super badass. I mean, what a guy. But obviously he can't play Kamen Rider forever, so I'd be very interested to see if his son is going to do this again. I don't really know what they would do it in again, but hey, maybe it'd be a thing if he's kind of our new Takashi Hongo going forward. Or maybe at least in voiceover roles or something. That's possible. And speaking of there being other villains in this film, of course we're going to have the Deadmens from Revice kind of be like the secondary cast of villains. Of course, Shocker's like the main villains with Kamen Rider Century and everything, but we're going to get our trio of, typical Deadmens, and including the new Chameleon one that just debuted in this most recent episode. I'm not going to give spoilers on who that is if you guys have not seen the most recent episode of Revice, but you should watch Revice. It's very, very good. I probably going to do a video on that here relatively soon, just kind of giving my thoughts on this first arc of the show. But we do get to see this one promotional picture of a box of unknown Vice stamps, which people were saying kind of match up to the colors of the Imagine of the typical Taros, but they actually seem to be, for this group of brand new Shocker Deadmen, that are going to be appearing in this film. And I don't know their names off the top of my mind, but it would not surprise me if this is going to be some kind of premium Bandai set of Vice stamps. We just got our first premium Bandai set of Deadman Vice stamps announced not too long ago, so Revice has definitely thrown out all this premium stuff almost every weekend at this point, so it would not surprise me if, the weekend the film comes out, so not this weekend, but next weekend, if we start seeing this on premium or something like that. Or maybe it'll show up on the show. I don't think it would, and then it would come out some other way, but it's definitely going to be premium. We all know that. But what's really interesting is we kind of see this whole thing in this trailer. There's a trailer for the film and everything, which I think it's on YouTube, and if it is, I'll put it in the description below, so be sure to check that out. We get to see they're going to be like summoning past Kamen Riders. There's like this tablet full of Kamen Riders. It's a weird lineup. It's a weird Smash Brothers lineup right there of Kamen Riders, especially Muteki. His name is Xaid, so I don't really know what that's about. But we do get to see a lot of screenshots of groups of riders, which are kind of themed and everything like that. And there's a whole theory going around that none of these are actually, well, none of them are going to have the returning actors. That's a fact. But they bring back random suits to kind of just stand there and pretend like the characters are back all the time. I mean, we know this. So, of course, they're not going to get the actual actors back, but there's a theory going around, and I definitely believe this. I don't know if it's been confirmed. It very well has possibly been confirmed, and I just don't know it. But it's been believed that the villain riders that we see returning are actually going to be like our new Deadmens transforming into past villain riders, and that the hero riders that we see are going to be our Saber and Revice characters transforming into those past riders. The reason why that theory kind of came about is because there's certain shots where the characters are just posed in a certain way to where it looks more like Revice characters, or they're kind of like surprised. Like there's a shot of Kuga and 01 standing there, and they look like surprised that they're there. They're like, whoa, I'm 01 and I'm Kuga. So there's people are speculating that like perhaps that's Saber and Revice, or Revi turning into the two of them or something like that. Maybe Vice stamps are involved with that, or obviously that pad that we see with all the random riders on it. But like there's one shot especially that shows Forze, Meteor, Super 1, Zeto, Nadeshiko, and Agito that people are speculating could be our cast of Revice characters. Especially look at Forze. People are thinking that's definitely Vice. People are thinking like Nadeshiko would be Genie, possibly like Meteor would be Live, or something like that, or you know, some kind of combination. Super 1 maybe being Revi, and then Zeto being, I guess that would be demons at this point, for anyone who's left or whatever. And Agito, people are thinking could be like a Saber Rider, or like, especially just by the way that they're all posed. And we see this again with another group shot of riders, which includes Black RX, Valkyrie, Knight, Axel, Blade, and Hyper Muteki X8 again, which some people are thinking that that would be kind of the Saber cast of characters, especially things like Knight could be Blades, or something like that possibly, or Valkyrie could be like Sabella, or it could be Genie, it also could be the Revice cast. We're not really sure. Or it could just be those riders pretending like it's those characters coming back and they're just standing there. And then speaking of the villain team of riders, we get to see Barlix, Duke, Sorcerer, Oja, Eternal, Yango, and the Shocker Rider. So they're definitely pulling some random costumes out of that closet there. Yango, I never thought we'd see on screen again. And a Shocker Rider is a pretty deep cut. So like an original Shocker Rider, not like first and next versions, or even, I guess, Sango and Yango. Those would be considered Shocker Riders, I suppose. But yeah, there's a lot of interesting things there. And this movie looks like a lot of fun. I'm very interested to see how Kamen Century is going to work and everything like that. I'm interested to see what's going on with all these returning rider suits. I'm very interested to see what kind of Vice stamps we get in there, because I would like to see the Saber one actually show up on the screen. I'd love to see like a Kajiki, genome or something like that, or a 01 stamp, or what other cameos they have up their sleeve, or anything like that. And obviously, I think it's just going to be cool to have like the whole Saber cast. I mean, they got like everybody, like the whole group of riders from the sort of logos. We have our main cast of Revice riders, which is like 6 riders deep already. And this is just going to be a lot of fun, I think. It's going to be a typical Kamen Rider crossover film, so it's probably going to be a little, clinky in some areas with pacing and story and stuff. But you're supposed to just kind of turn off your brain and have fun. And of course, Kamen Ichigo will be back, or at least his son will be back, and I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. It's not what I would have expected from a Revice and Saber movie, but I guess it makes sense when you have to throw in all those elements to celebrate the 50th anniversary and have that aspect to it. So I can't wait to see it in a couple months when it comes out, like sub-wise and everything. And yeah, I can't wait also to see how it affects the show, if it ties into Revice at all, because sometimes these films tie into the show, sometimes they don't. It's kind of 50-50. Alright, well that's all I got to talk about with Kamen Rider Beyond Generations. I'm going to leave a link in the description below to the trailer, if I believe it's on YouTube. I think it's on the Toei YouTube channel, so that'll be down there. Also down there will be the link to the Toku Collectibles page for Kamen Rider Century's Driver, if you do want to pre-order that yourself. And yeah, that's all I got. So I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on what do you think is going on with these returning riders? What do you want to see happen in this film? Are you looking forward to it? Are you looking forward more to the Saber parts or the Revice parts? Or anything you want to talk about, related to the film, leave it down in the comments below. And until next time, you can follow me on Twitter at LivingRangerKey or at LightningFigPR. And I'll see you all next time.